money can make you happier. The more money you earn, the more that you can massively increase your happiness. Having more money, spending more money can make you happier, just not in the way that you probably think and not as much as you probably think. And you can use it as a tool to live a better life. And so if you're saying I'm not good with money, you're making a choice to not get better. Nothing is easier than bad financial habits that you want to have. Most people who are making financial mistakes and have a problem with money, it's not because of the lack of intelligence, it's ignorance. And for most people, they actually have no idea how much money they're making or spending. I think it would be that your ability to feel wealthy, to feel rich, to be financially independent is absolutely in your control. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, how much money you make, what your job is, you can do it. And I think we've told ourselves for generations that in order to become rich, you have to have the right educational background, you have to have the right career, you have to come from the right family. And I don't think it's true. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how you think about money. It's about how you behave. And behavior is in everybody's control. An ordinary person who doesn't have a good education, maybe they didn't even graduate high school, let's say, but they have good financial behavior. They can think long term. They can keep their expectations in check. They're patient. They have those behavioral qualities. That person can do very well. But the person who went to Harvard and got an MBA and went to work on Wall Street has the best education, the best connections, the best experience. That person can easily go broke, and they do. Not uncommon for that to happen. And that is not true in other fields. It is impossible to think of an ordinary person who didn't go to high school, didn't go to college, performing open heart surgery better than a Harvard-trained doctor. That's impossible. That will never happen. But it does happen with money because it's not about what you know. You don't need to know the secret formulas. You don't need to have secret connections. If you just get your behavior right and your thinking right, you can do well. Patience, keeping your expectations in check, not comparing yourself to other people, using money as a tool to live a better life instead of a yardstick to measure yourself against others by. It's very simple stuff, and it's all in your head. And I think it's 99% of what people need to know to do well with money is in your control. There's a graveyard of stories of people, most of them were very wealthy people, who the goal of their investments was beat other people. Their goal was outperform the next guy, and it completely backfired on they were chasing a goal that had no impact on their quality of life. And that's never made much sense to me. It's always just been like, how can I use this as a tool to be happier? And there are a lot of people, I explained in Psychology Money how I invest my money. And I was maybe not surprised, but I think it's so interesting to me that it seems like their goal is making the spreadsheet happy. Their goal is so that you can come up with a formula that says you're maximizing return. And my goal has always been use it as a tool to live a better life. Would you rather earn $70,000 a year and your kids admire you, you have a great marriage, you have barbecues with your friends and you sit and laugh and you're in good health? And would you rather have that life or make $1 million a year and you're on your 5th divorce, your kids don't talk to you anymore, you're in terrible health, you're being sued by all of your business partners? When you frame it like that, it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, would you rather have a good life and less money or more money and a worse life? If you frame it like that, it's obvious. But still, even if you agree with that framing, it is so normal and natural to say. But I think it's important to realize too that all happiness is just the gap between expectations and reality. You have the life you're living, the life you expect to live. In between there is where you can find some level of happiness. And the wider that gap is, the more miserable you're going to feel. It's true that the expectations game has no ending. There's always somebody who's getting richer faster than you. And if you're always just seeking validation, if your key to happiness is always, if only I had what that person has, you're never going to be satisfied with what you have. And the more dangerous thing, I think, is once you have that mindset that if only I had more, I would be happier, then it kind of grows exponentially. Because if you tell yourself, I'll be happy once I have $10,000, and when you get 10,000 and you're like, oh, maybe it's 100,000. Maybe if I had $100,000, then I'd be happy. And then maybe you're fortunate enough to get that money, and then maybe it's $1 million. It grows exponentially. I think with every dollar that you spend, it's always one of two buckets. And you should ask yourself which bucket this falls into. Is buying this thing going to make me and my family happier? Or am I buying it to impress other people, most of whom are strangers? It's always one of those two things. If I'm buying food, that's for me and my family, clear as day. If I'm buying new clothes, a lot of that might be, or a new car, a lot of that might be my attempt to impress strangers, most of whom are not paying any attention to you whatsoever. It's always one of those two things. Do you want to use money as a tool to live a better life? Or do you want to use money as a yardstick of status to measure yourself against others by? It's completely normal and natural to have that. But when you realize that that's the game that you're playing, that a lot of these aspirations that I have are to impress people who are not even paying attention to me. And they're not paying attention to me because they're busy worrying about themselves. They're busy in their own heads saying, are people impressed with me? Are people looking at me? And that's a huge part of what's going on inside these people's heads, is that their biggest aspiration in life is trying to impress strangers who are not even looking to begin with. The new sweater that you bought might give you a day or two of happiness before it's either worn out or you don't care about it much anymore. But the paying it off is going to stick with you for years or months or even decades. And so that kind of thing of controlling your future and independence, every dollar of debt that you have from these poor spending habits is a piece of your future that somebody else owns. It's a piece of your time that you owe to the bank, you owe to the lender. And the opposite of that is every dollar of savings that you have, the reverse of bad spending habits, is a piece of your future that you own. I've viewed this since I was 17, that every dollar that I save, even if it was literally $1, was $1 of my future that I gained back. That's always how it felt to me. And that's always been my goal for saving, and my motivation for saving was I just want to be independent. I just want to wake up and do whatever I want. And I feel like my savings has bought that. It's not, when I save money, it's not because I say, oh, I'm saving up to buy a new car. Even though there can be that, and that can be great. If I save $100, I view that as purchasing $100 of independence, spending that money. It's giving me independence today. And I think that can be an antidote to bad spending habits. Most people who are making financial mistakes and have a problem with money, it's not because of the lack of intelligence, it's ignorance. And for most people, they actually have no idea how much money they're making or spending. And if you ask them, like, how much money do you make per month? And how much money do you spend per month overall? Most people in that situation either couldn't tell you, or they would give you an answer that's false. And I think the very basic, such boring advice that goes the longest is check your bank account balance every single day. It takes 10 seconds, it's not that hard. And just to give yourself some sense of how much money is coming in and how much is going out. Just be cognizant of it. People don't do this anymore, but back in a different generation, balancing your checkbook was always a big thing. Most people don't do it anymore. But I remember for my entire life, since I've been a teenager, I've never had any never need to do that, because I know my bank account balance down to the dollar every day since I've been 16 or 17. And I think just having that awareness of what's going in and what's going out, it's the most basic advice. But for people who are new and starting out, nothing goes further than that. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's ignorance. You just have to become aware of what you're spending and how much is coming in and how much is going out. Money can make you happier. Having more money, spending more money can make you happier, just not in the way that you probably think, and not as much as you probably think. That you can use it as a tool to live a better life. And that is a great thing. It can also be, much more commonly, a yardstick of status to measure yourself against others by. We've repeated that multiple times because I think it's the most important thing today about money, is that because it's so easy to measure, it's so easy to quantify, and our society has made it so that that is the level of success, that your net worth is equal to your self-worth. And it's obviously a broken and damaging story. And once you exercise controlling your expectations, controlling your emotions, having gratitude for what you do have, I think that's the ultimate wealth for me. It's not necessarily about what your net worth is. It's your ability to control what you think and be grateful for what you do have. At the lower levels, the more money you earn, the more that you can massively increase your happiness. If your income goes from $10,000 a year to $20,000 a year, you change your life completely. And going from 50 to 100 can change your life. Probably going from 100 to 200 can change your life. Different for everybody based off of their ambitions. But I think for a lot of people, once you own a house that has enough bedrooms for you and your kids, and you like the neighborhood that you live in, and you have good neighbors that you enjoy, and your car isn't breaking down, and you're eating healthy food, and you're doing checking some pretty basic boxes. You have adequate health care, those things like that. And most areas in life, you might be able to get that for different region to region, but 200, 250, whatever it might be. Then after that, it's not that the money can't make you happier, but it diminishes quite quickly from there. And at the extreme levels, is there any difference in lifestyle between Elon Musk, who's worth, I think, $600 billion, and Jeff Bezos, who's worth $200 billion? Of course not. $400 billion difference. There's no difference in lifestyle whatsoever. For most of people, there would be no difference in lifestyle between 100 million and 100 billion. You have too many houses, you have planes, you have everything you could want. It just diminishes quickly from there. A more important point, though, is I think for a lot of people, there is a net worth at which not only do you stop getting happier, but your life gets more complicated and you start dealing with like big existential questions of who am I and what do I do with this? And it becomes a social liability. There's a level at which your friends and your family are going to start come asking you for money. You have such higher expectations of like, how do I raise kids without spoiling them and whatnot? There's all those questions, and that level of net worth is probably lower than people think. Having enough does not mean you have no aspirations for more. I want to work very hard this year and earn as much money as I can. I want to do that next year and the year after that. But with as much emphasis, with as much strategy and will, I want to think about my expectations and keep my expectations in check. And when you realize that wealth is what you have versus what you want, and the wider that gap is, the worse you're going to feel. The narrower that gap is, the better you're going to feel. But there is a very clear expectation that if you wake up in the morning and you feel a little bit empty or diminished or anxious or in pain, that you can tell yourself, if only I had more money, those problems would go away. And I think to some extent, it can be true. Money can give you a comfortable life and solve a lot of your problems. But what you see with a lot of rich people is that once they gain the money, they still had a lot of problems in their life. And that can be such a jarring feeling because you told yourself, if only my net worth is X dollars, then I'll be good. And you get there and you're like, wait a minute, my friendships still aren't that great. My health is still not great. My marriage is still not that great. I still don't sleep at night. I still have all these anxieties. And so then you kind of lose your sense of hope, or you double down. And so a lot of people are like, once my net worth is $1 million, I'll be great. And then you get there and you're like, well, I feel the same, so maybe it's 2 million. And you get there and you're like, I feel the same, maybe it's 10 million. And you're just constantly chasing the high that you think you're gonna get from it. Money can solve a lot of problems in your life, but this is another area that we just overestimate what it can do for you. To me, the noble goal, what it's always been for myself, and I think this is true for the majority of people, is independence. I have no desire to be rich in the sense of a giant house, flashy cars. I have no desire to live that life. I want to be independent. I want to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. And I'm using money as a tool to foster that. That's always been my goal. Now that's very different from saying, I want a bigger house or I want a house. You know, it's a goal of independence. And my grandmother-in-law, who had no money, was completely independent. She was beholden to no one else's influence but her own. And she lived an amazing life because of it. There are billionaires, there are decabillionaires out there who are completely beholden to the opinions and the influence of other people. And so there are a lot of people for whom money is a financial asset, but it's a psychological liability. It completely controls their identity and who they are. And there's other people who actually don't have that much money. They have no psychological liability. They're in complete control over their personality and their goals. I've often used this. It's a very imperfect idea, but I think about if I was on a deserted island, maybe with just me and my family, nobody else could see how I was living. Nobody else could see my house. Nobody else could see my car. It's completely invisible to everybody else. What kind of lifestyle would I live? If nobody else was watching, what kind of lifestyle would I choose to live? And in that situation, myself, and I think most people, would instantly shift from status to utility. I have no interest in status if nobody can watch it. I have interest in utility. And so the kind of house that I would want to live in, the kind of car that I would drive, would instantly shift from what are other people impressed by towards what is actually going to foster a good life for myself and my family. And they're very different things. You could make $100 million a year and feel like you're falling behind if you're chasing other people. There's a great quote from the comedian Jimmy Carr where he says, everybody is jealous of what you've got. Nobody is jealous of how you got it. And that's another one of these points. It's very easy for me or you to look at people who are more successful than we are and say, if we had that level of success, I would be happier. Because when we look at them, I can see your house, I can see your car, I can see your clothes, I can see the material aspect of your success, cannot see the hard work and the stress of how you got it and what it took to get there. I think when you're looking at your expenses, you got mortgage, car payment, whatever it might be, taking care of future you needs to be near the top of that pack. And I think a lot of finance is understanding and like being kind to your future self. having empathy with who you're going to be 30 days from now, 30 years from now, and being really kind to that person and taking care of that person. And I think that's a big part of this. One part of saving too is that I've always been a big saver, and I don't feel like I'm necessarily saving for the future. I don't feel like I'm saving money. I feel like I'm buying independence. I feel like every time I save money, I'm buying a little bit of independence, and I get benefit from that today. When I save money, it's not like, oh, this will help me 10 years from now, even though it will. That helps me tomorrow. If I can wake up and be like, I have a level of independence that I didn't before, that's going to give me control over my life. And I think that's ultimately what people want out of money, is freedom and independence and the ability to wake up and just say, I can do what I want today and make my own choices and live my own life.